ain't no home sweet home. It's a home sweet misery. We knew when we got here, they tried to pull us away. But when they seen us walk down the street, they ran the other way. Max Street in Atlanta, DA. Max Street in the whole USA. Max Street, nasty and hot. The further down that block you went, the better it got. Jumping, got to be around.
Welcome to another edition of Corner to Corner Wrestling Radio. We are live on Spreaker.com, and we will be available on replay, of course, at BeyondRingside.com and ProWrestlingRadio.net. I'm Stan Grubb, joined by the triple threat, of course, my tag team partners. Rob Hefner.
Holla, holla, dollar bill, y'all.
And Brian Taylor.
What's going on?
And good Labor Day weekend to everybody. Hope y'all are enjoying your time with family, doing cookouts. We did Crab Fest 2017 at Rob's house.
Woohoo!
Good barbecue, too. That was pretty cool. Kids got to play together. And
I was going to say, I don't like crabs, but the barbecue was great.
it was real good.
And the bushel we have left of crabs, they'll be good for those people tomorrow.
Yay.
So, guys, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk a little bit about what we saw on Monday night. Monday Night Raw saw a standoff or confrontation, contract signing between Roman Reigns and John Cena. So, first off, many people in the wrestling community thought, was this a shoot? Was this Cena and Roman Reigns really tripping each other up and going at it? Or did finally a writer strike gold with the promo? Then, of course, the following day, Tuesday morning, reports come out that it was not only scripted, but they had every intention of trying to make it look as awkward as possible. If you listen to any of the wrestling community podcasts, there's one for Edge and Christian. They talk about how it was something that was sorely missed for Roman Reigns, but it was obvious where he tripped up and couldn't keep up with John Cena. So let's look at a little bit of thoughts and opinion on just that first segment. It wasn't the first segment, but it was the standout segment, I think, from Raw. Brian, we'll start with you. What did you think of John Cena and Roman Reigns face-to-face?
I think that, once again, you literally have to be stupid to allow them to say, hey, you're going to go stand in the ring with John Cena, and you're going to say this, and we're just going to let him talk. Much like The Miz and AJ Styles, it's the same argument we've heard multiple times, but this time Cena literally just destroyed Roman Reigns. And I don't see how it could be scripted or why you would even script it to do that.
I mean, the thought process behind it was to have Cena, the chiseled veteran, the grizzled guy that's been there for as long as he has, making Roman Reigns look bad on purpose. But to me, that seems like a mistake. Why would you want your supposed heir apparent to just look like a moron in the main stage? And why are they doing this at No Mercy? Why isn't this not on Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, or even WrestleMania? Rob, I'm sure you have some thoughts on it.
I would go with the same thing you all do. I mean, Roman Reigns at times, scripted or not scripted, Roman Reigns looked like he was pissed. He looked like, he looked like the kid who just got told off by his dad.
Yeah.
And he can't keep up. It was just bad. I mean, was it fun to watch? It was. Because there for a moment it took away that fourth wall. You're like, oh, hell hell, we got ourselves a CM Punk pipe bomb going on.
Right.
But then, and then the only thing he could come back up with is, well, it's like John Cena sat there and spanked him for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then
he
he
really
goes,
did.
I know you are, but what am I? It just was so. But what's the purpose? What's the point? I mean, the whole angle of Cena and Roman Reigns, I mean, what are they trying to do? Get the two people nobody wants to see in the room together?
Well, for me, though, it seems like Cena has enhanced AJ Styles and Cena enhanced The Miz similar to what they tried with Roman Reigns. However, Roman doesn't have the charisma. He doesn't have the abilities. He doesn't have the backing of the crowd that the other two have. And let me tell you what, there's no way you can script and say, at this point, I want you to lock up and literally just look like you are so lost you're about to cry. Because he looked like he was going to cry.
Not only that, but Roman Reigns was lost. Like the whole time, Cena's just going and going and going, hitting on every level. And Roman Reigns just, you can see the facial expression. He doesn't know what to say, doesn't know what to do.
Right.
And when you're faced with John Cena, you have one chance to stand out. And if you don't, he's going to bury you. And he doesn't do it to bury you. He does it because it's his job. I mean, he is supposed to be the quote-unquote face that runs the place. So when he said, the bad thing is I do this better part-time than you ever could full-time, shoot or work, it was truth. And Roman Reigns should be ashamed of himself because it is his fault. John Cena has to come back, has to step in the ring and go against him to try to elevate him. Cena's not getting anything out of this feud. If, in fact, he breaks the Ric Flair title record, which is still a possibility, but this matchup doesn't help him or hurt him. If he loses, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
If he wins, it doesn't matter. But there again, we're going to No Mercy. And one of the things, and Edge and Christian, their podcast is probably the one that, if you're listening to a retired professional wrestler, they have the most honest feedback. They don't necessarily go off and make fun of WWE, but they also don't hide anything. And one thing that they said that stood out to me was it was uncomfortable in a good way because it did expose Roman Reigns, but at the same time, it was uncomfortable, and it should be getting done for Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, a bigger stage.
I'm not so much worried about the stage because, again, it matters not. There's nothing on the line, right? There's absolutely nothing. Cena's career is cemented. He's a Hall of Famer. They will probably put Roman Reigns in the Hall of Fame just because they've handed him whatever they've given him, even though he doesn't necessarily deserve it. So to me, it doesn't particularly matter the stakes. There are no stakes. It's just going to be a matchup, so it wouldn't matter where. Now, if you put the world title, U.S. title, Intercontinental, then maybe, to me, you would put it on a bigger pay-per-view.
I mean, it just seems to me that it's screaming yet another way that Vince is trying to prove Roman is the one who's going to be the next. But they just did to Roman with Cena, and they don't even realize it, is what they did to Ascension.
Oh, yeah.
They basically just had John Cena come out after he got done humiliating Rusev to the point Rusev's like, well, I'm going to take my ball and go home. Well, I'm going to take my girlfriend and go home.
I mean, it
Sorry,
could be
wife.
worse.
But now he's supposed to, John Cena, work or not, said everything in that promo that every WWE fan is thinking. Yeah, you beat The Undertaker, but The Undertaker was not in his prime. The Undertaker was not The Undertaker of old.
Right.
So you sitting there saying you beat The Undertaker is like a person who won an Emmy Award in 1975, and they still lead everything with, I won an Emmy Award. You know, what have you done since?
Mm-hmm.
You know, except being booed. And the fact that the new T-shirt is probably the worst-selling WWE T-shirt. I mean, I think Breezango's T-shirt sells more.
There's a Breezango T-shirt?
There is a Fashion Police T-shirt.
Huh. I'd actually have to get one of those.
It's blue, has the badge on it. But I'm just so done with Roman Reigns. And I know you're a fan of Roman Reigns, and I'm not trying to say, it seems like yet another way Vince is shoving Roman Reigns down the throats of the fans of the WWE when there is no plausible conflict there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got Braun, who has whipped his butt for the last 3 months, has now been pushed up to Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
All right? Roman Reigns should be taking a sabbatical, making a movie, air quotes, you can't see because this is radio. But, no, we're
Rob
making up
Hefner's
an angle.
famous air quotes.
We're making up an angle to keep him
Yeah.
relevant when he's not relevant.
Well, I mean, from a fan perspective, we define relevance as someone people want to see. They want to see him in the ring. They want to see him in backstage segments. They're really looking for just more exposure. So when we see a guy like Ty Dillinger, people want to see him. There's a demand. People want to see Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, just to name a few. And Reigns isn't necessarily unpopular. The problem here with Reigns is never been a question of can he go in the ring. It's he's lost the moment the spotlight hits him.
Well, let's talk about your popularity there. If Roman Reigns was 1980s rock and wrestling, Roman Reigns is the hottest thing ever.
Yeah, yeah.
There is a certain demographic that cheers their heads off for Roman Reigns.
Right.
And that is the younger crowd who is not hip to wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
They just see Roman Reigns and Roman Reigns doesn't get beat and he always comes back and yada, yada, yada. They don't understand it the way a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And the difference to me between Cena and Roman Reigns is even though people boo John Cena, you cannot find anybody that doesn't have respect for what he does. In the ring, out of the ring, with the fans, right on down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's cool to boo John Cena, but there's nobody that can literally say, I don't have respect for that man.
Right.
Whereas with Roman, there's no respect at all. They just literally boo him.
Yeah, there's this air that he hasn't earned it. And, I mean, you can see what he did in FCW where he cut his teeth and where he started. But unless you have access to that, unless you can find FCW in the WWE Network archives and you have the motivation to go look it up, you're not going to know. So it's, even for me, as a fan of Roman Reigns, watching Monday night, I was like, jeez, this isn't going to get any better for Roman here. He's not coming out of this without a problem.
No. And I'll also lay money that the WWE machine, after it backfiring on them so bad Monday, then decided to put out a disclaimer, oh, well, that's the way we designed it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easy with hindsight to do something like that.
Right. Well, it's just like what they did with Daniel Bryan. They just took over a year to build up Daniel Bryan, but they always claimed that was always their plan all along.
Right.
Even though they threw, they were going to put him in the Wyatt family. They were going to have him go after the tag titles and leave him there. It was the fans that forced their hand on Daniel Bryan.
Right.
The fans and CM Punk. Because Punk could have very well stayed in 2014, and we may not have seen Daniel Bryan get to that level. But once Punk left, you had a huge void to fill, and Daniel Bryan was your guy.
Well, I think also Roman is the
Unofficial?
Oh, he's in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
If he was Roman Reigns back when Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels were the only two guys in the company going back and forth before Steve Austin came in, it would be a different story.
He would have a Kevin Nash feel.
Right. But the problem is you got Roman Reigns, you've got Braun Strowman, you've got John Cena, you've got AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura. You've got all these main talent that people are behind that are getting buried because the machine wants to see Roman at the top. And the fans aren't the fans of the 80s and 90s because we didn't have the information we do now.
Right.
We didn't have the access we do now. So when people like Brian said, when people boo John Cena, they boo John Cena because it's popular to boo John Cena.
Right.
Same thing they do Kurt Angle when he comes out.
Yeah, exactly. It's the cool thing
to do that.
Yeah.
They boo Roman Reigns because they don't like Roman Reigns.
Right.
I mean, nothing against his heritage or where he came up or the dues he's paid.
Yeah.
But you've put the strap on the man, 3 times?
And it just didn't work.
And it's been horrible every time.
And that's coming from me. You guys both know I'm a supporter. I like Roman Reigns. But all 3 times he's had the belt, it fell short. They took the belt off of him. They even moved him down the card. He gets the U.S. title. And to John Cena's point, I think he did view it as a demotion, even though it helped his career. He seemed to treat it that way, at least from my perspective.
What wrestler doesn't, though?
Well, yeah, but AJ didn't. John Cena didn't. That enhanced their career, especially Cena.
Oh, yeah.
When he got that U.S. strap and he said, well, I'm going to toe the company line, and the next thing you know, we're doing the U.S. Open. And he is now wrestling people that you would never get him to wrestle, and he's doing it with a smile on his face. That's what Roman Reigns should have done. Roman doesn't belong in that elite class of your AJ Styles, your Shinsuke Nakamura, your Samoa Joe, even Braun Strowman. If somebody has risen to a meteoric rise and deserves that title, think about it. He was a rosebud. Okay? Rosebud. He wasn't a great rosebud. Nobody even knew he was a rosebud.
Right.
The Wyatt family. He starts to get overshadowed. As big as he was overshadowed by Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. Right? And then next thing you know, we split. Braun Strowman's on this show. The other ones are somewhere else. And look at him. You gave him the ball, run with it. And what's he done?
And very quietly.
Run with it.
Yeah, very quietly and powerfully, he stepped up.
Right. And that's the right way to do it. I mean, he doesn't even talk hardly, and he's got the crowd behind him. Roman gets the opportunity to talk, and it's jibber-jabber.
And to that point, we get to Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning, where the headline becomes Roman Reigns is a shade of gray bad guy. Good guy, bad guy, shade of gray. He's not a heel or face. Like, WWE is suddenly saying it's Attitude Era all over again. But the reality is, you can't get him over as a good guy, and you can't make fans hate him in a character aspect because they just don't want to see him where he's at. If you put him on SmackDown and had him for the U.S. title with AJ Styles, he'd be booed as the bad guy. If you put him on Raw and had him feud with The Miz, he'd be cheered as a good guy.
Only to a point.
Well, that's the thing. With The Miz, he's getting dangerously close to like Ric Flair level popularity-wise.
Correct.
No matter what he does, people cheer him. And that's just because who Mike Mizanin is as a character and as a guy, as a performer.
Because he plays that old school bad guy that nobody else plays anymore.
Right. And he's not afraid to do it.
Right.
So, I mean, we've kind of touched on all sorts of different fronts there, but I think we would all agree that while the segment was definitely entertaining and it did sell the idea that this could be a good match, what it didn't do was help Roman Reigns at all.
I disagree.
You don't
it
think it'd be
didn't
a good
sell
match?
that it make a good match. To me, the whole time, it's why. Why are we doing this match? It makes no sense. It's just, are we, are they going, all right, Roman, we're eventually going to have him go against the title. Let's fill in the blocks. All right, Bonk, John Cena's. Who's next?
Right.
Harley Race.
I mean, this.
I mean,
is he coming out of retirement?
it makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, it just started. What? Oh my God! Look at that. It just started. What? 2 weeks ago. Cena shows up on Raw, and here's Roman Reigns. Just because they tout him as this is my yard. Well, it's not your yard. You have no claim to it. Cena has a claim to it. Roman Reigns has no claim whatsoever to it. And it's just the catchphrases, the one-liners they use with it, it's bunk, and they need to just stop.
Well, and as much as he got his ass whipped by Braun Strowman the last month, as much as he got whipped by Braun Strowman the last month, it's Braun's yard. I mean, you can't come out and say, it's my... No, dude. If you can't cash the check, it ain't your yard.
I mean, you can't argue with that. Braun Strowman, if anybody's laid a claim and defended it as his yard, you can't take it away from Braun Strowman. Cena has a claim to it. I can't disagree with that. I think the matchup has the potential to be good on the surface, but it kind of remains to be seen. Do I want to see it? Yeah, I want to see how it goes. But my thought process is there's no clean finish. Something happens, it's a double count out, double DQ, some people run in, whatever.
I mean, you also got the fact that they're clamoring for the Shield reunion. They've already given you 2/3 of it. So the next logical step for Roman is to complete the trio and have a little mini Shield reunion just in time for WrestleMania, where he's going to get the world title shot, which he doesn't deserve.
That leads me to my next question, because now we've got Brock Lesnar defending against Braun Strowman at No Mercy. On the surface, on paper, this matchup should be great. It should be two hard-hitting, big guys, athletic guys that don't ever stop. I mean, they get blown up, but you can't tell. The problem is, though, once again, you're at No Mercy. You're at a B-level pay-per-view. You've got to put somebody there. I mean, you can't just not. But, again, this could be Survivor Series. This could be Royal Rumble, even WrestleMania.
Well, yeah, but I think the problem just lies in where it falls on the pay-per-view. The order of the pay-per-views. There's nobody that could have told us when they contrived this little, listing of who, the order Braun Strowman's going to get. Not Braun Strowman, but Brock Lesnar. That they knew Braun Strowman was going to be this big.
Well, plus Samoa Joe's hurt. He's out for another few weeks. We caught wind of that Monday evening, Tuesday morning. Samoa Joe out with a knee injury. Apparently 4 weeks, though, so we don't imagine that's going to be very serious. Probably just a sprain.
I think he's going tomorrow to get it looked at or something.
Okay. So, on the other side of it, though, on SmackDown, Xavier Woods injured with a knee injury, torn MCL. Out, they're expecting 8 weeks. Definitely doesn't help their feud with the Usos. But there's also some scuttlebutt going on that the Usos and Rollins and Ambrose could be leading to an inter-brand tag team match. Does that have any kind of appeal to you guys?
No, I don't see the point in it.
To me, you start doing that, it's like John Cena jumping from SmackDown to Raw.
Right.
You totally do away with the whole brand split problem. And that was the issue with before the brand split. Oh, wait a minute. 1 minute Bryan can wrestle for the WWE Raw title.
Mm-hmm.
Well, next month he loses that, so then he wants to wrestle for the SmackDown title. You gotta, if you want these things to work, you gotta keep them separate.
And you have to stick with it. You can't just give up on it, because if you do it once, then you got to do it 2 or 3 times, and then you might as well just unify the things.
I think the problem with the brand split has been lack of organization. They haven't seemed like they've known what to do with it since they started it. They did a superstar shakeup, and that was the follow-up to the draft. Now there's rumors there's going to be another draft. And just for the life of me, I can't understand why we need to have so many different redrafts, I guess, just to make sure that the rosters are relevant. If that's what you have to do, why'd you split them in the first place?
My take is you see one show take off and be successful, and it wasn't the show you were expecting, because Raw is the brand show,
Mm-hmm.
but SmackDown is head and shoulders above Raw.
Right.
Well, it has to be the guys on SmackDown. So let's take some of these guys from SmackDown, put them on Raw, vice versa, and maybe it'll even out. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe both shows will be good. That's not the case. If you have 2 separate writing groups, that's who you need to split. If you have 2 different groups of agents, that's who you need to split, not the talent on TV. Or just suck it up and let's see where it goes.
I mean, I think you're right, but the problem is they take the ones from one show and put them on the other show because, oh, wait a minute, we need them over here. Oh, we need them over there. Well, you're never going to have continuity.
Right.
And then what are you saying to the people who are already on that roster? You know? You're telling, okay, Shinsuke, we don't want to push you right now. We're going to bring somebody else in and keep you down.
Mm-hmm.
Or the club. You know? You're the best tag team we got on there, but we're going to keep putting these people together to take the belts to keep you down. I mean, and not even give you a shot. It just makes no sense.
Well, you got 2 guys, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, accomplished, able to hold their own in a main event and a mid-card. You've got The Miz as a top-notch heel in WWE, where he can go against really anybody. So you could have put Seth Rollins against The Miz and had a very easy feud.
Sure.
Dean Ambrose could have been moved. You got a few different options there. You could have moved him to... I probably would have kept on SmackDown, to be honest.
Look, Dean Ambrose has gotten lazy and complacent since probably a number of months. He got no promos.
Mm-hmm.
The heat that's generated is the heat that he's carried for a while.
Right.
He phones it in some matches. He doesn't deserve that spot. But again, because we put him where we don't, it brings the show down. Instead of letting Miz and, like Rob said, Seth Rollins and Miz go at it, we're bringing Seth Rollins down
Mm-hmm.
to try and elevate Dean, and the Miz is fighting who?
Jason Jordan.
Jason Jordan.
Right now his feud with Jason Jordan.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Jason Jordan.
Jason
Then
Jordan.
let's talk about that. All right? Jason Jordan. They put him on Raw as this, quote, there's my air quotes again, Kurt Angle's kid. But meanwhile, Shelton Benjamin comes back on SmackDown finally. We're going to put you with Chad Gable.
Yeah.
But I do think, though, Gable is going to win out in this because he has Shelton Benjamin.
Yeah. I think they're basically going to be tag team champs within the next month or 2.
That's what I'm saying. You just broke up a tag team and put a guy over here just to put a tag team back together.
Pretty much. It's American Alpha, just a different black
they're
guy.
like, all right, Jason Jordan, we're done with you.
Right.
We're going to bring in Shelton Benjamin. You know?
It seems to me like of the 2, Gable's going to be the one that benefits overall too.
Correct. Just because he has Shelton Benjamin.
Right.
Because to me, with especially SmackDown, if they keep him on SmackDown, their biggest competition is the Usos,
Right.
followed by New Day. But if New Day isn't playing Freebird rules,
Right.
to me they're not as good as when they're Freebird rules. When there's 3 of them.
Well, plus they're in a good guy role, so they're limited by that. Their best benefit was when they were bad guys, and they cheated, and they did the Freebird thing, and it worked for them. Now, when we look at them as a good guy squad, they still do it, but it's watered down, so it doesn't really work. And I have to agree with Rob. I mean, slapping tag teams together just because still doesn't make sense to me. And while I like the idea of a Shield reunion, it really doesn't have a place. I mean, Seth Rollins is beyond it. Dean Ambrose moved past it. Roman Reigns, granted to Rob's joke, he still uses the music, but he's not coming out through the crowd anymore. He's tried his best to
beat
make
him.
Because they'll beat him. I can see it now.
They did that for his safety.
The next headline on the torch or whatever will be Roman Reigns beat down, making his way to the ring. Oh damn! You guys kill me. So, okay, so that's like the rant of the week. We talk about the shoot work segment between Cena and Reigns. We talk about Chad Gable, Jason Jordan, them splitting up, and Ambrose and Rollins. So let's talk about something good in WWE. Let's talk about the Mae Young Classic. So the Mae Young Classic was dropped on the network Monday night, right after Raw. First round's available. If you haven't had an opportunity to watch it, pause your feed right now, and then smack yourself, unpause it, and then come back because we're going to talk about it. So, spoiler alert. So when we look at the Mae Young Classic, round 1 had all sorts of standouts that we've been looking forward to. We got Kerry Hojo, better known as Kerry, or not better known, but now known as Kerry Sane. We've got Tessa Blanchard, Rachel Ellering, Candice LeRae, Toni Storm, standout in my opinion, Piper Niven, who is from Scotland, and I apologize as far as the size of the girl. Bigger girl, but moves just like anybody else.
Moves like
it was
Jagger.
actually very impressive.
She got the moves like that.
You got Renee Michelle. You've got gone. Brian's pulling up some of the bracket information here so we can take a look. But Rob, how much of the Mae Young Classic have you had an opportunity to check out? Because I know that you've been fairly busy this week. So, I mean, has there been a standout for you?
I just like the whole concept. And the fact that, just like the Cruiserweight Classic, you have an event like this that is focusing on non-WWE regular talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very disappointed to see Tessa leave us so early.
Yeah, that you got so many cool talents there. Santana Garrett is another one. All of these ladies that are there, you've got to be able to bracket them, make it interesting and intriguing for the next rounds, and then have standouts that make everybody stand up and pay attention right from the beginning. I think a lot of people would agree that Candice LeRae looked tremendous. Tessa Blanchard and her matchup with Kerry Sane was amazing.
Well, people were telling me that that's what they saw for one of the semifinal matches. That's what they were predicting was Tessa Blanchard versus her. So for that to be first round,
yeah, it was a bummer because I really wanted to see it, but at the same time, I wanted it to be like the finals. I mean, to me, it should be Tessa and Kerry, and that should have been our finals. But, I mean, everybody has their own favorites. I think a lot of people wanted to see Candice LeRae go to the finals, and we don't know if that's how it's going to end or not. I don't think anybody expected the Scottish girl, Piper Niven, to do as well as she did.
Well, to me, though, it's almost like if you bracket a pro sports, their playoff bracket. 1 and 2 in the bracket don't play each other the first round.
No, they play the bottom of the other.
Right. With Tessa Blanchard and Kyrie, that's exactly what happened.
Right.
That's what happened, and to me, that almost put a damper on it because I would have liked to have seen them go that much further.
Yeah. Well, plus, while you need that standout, you need that immediate draw for the first round, you've got so many different talents that you could have mixed. I mean, Serena Deeb coming back was a great story. Serena Deeb taking on Kyrie Sane and then losing in that effort still would have been just as dramatic and just as much of a draw. Santana Garrett and Tessa Blanchard would have been a great matchup.
Yeah, but again, though, I would not bracket that way in the first round.
Right.
It wouldn't happen. That, to me, especially in a tournament like this, you need to start build. You need to build, and as you move up,
right,
they get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
And no offense to some of these people, but Santana Garrett is a pretty big name.
Yeah.
Tessa Blanchard is a pretty big name.
Mm-hmm.
Marty Bell is a pretty big name.
Yeah. Yes.
And, no offense to Rachel and all that, but that would have been cool for a second round match.
Mm-hmm.
And had her get bounced in the second round.
Yeah.
There were enough of these, enough people that they were like, oh, they don't have a lot of experience. They've only been doing it for a year, whatever. That they could have fed to some of these other people.
Right.
Instead of getting Tessa and Kyrie match one.
Well, and of course, folks, if you're listening to us live right now, we're broadcasting through Spreaker.com. Feel free to join the chat room. Hit us up on Twitter. You can tweet to the show at C2C Radio Show on Twitter, Corner to Corner Show on Facebook, and, of course, through Spreaker.com in our chat room. Give us your thoughts on the Mae Young Classic. We want to know what you think. If you've got questions or comments, of course, we'll be willing to share them on the air. But getting back to the bracketing, I have to agree with Brian. When you lay out this tournament, you have to set it up so that there's a way that will draw fan interest, but also build up and build up and build up, just like WrestleMania is supposed to be, just like the Royal Rumble is supposed to be. You build up to that big moment, and you're there.
What?
Well, I mean, here's the other thing, too.
Build up?
Here's the other thing, too. In today's age, where everybody's got the internet, or Flow Slam, or Fight TV, or New Japan World, or Ring of Honor, we have seen some of these matches before. But in other places, they're so great that it makes you want more. And again, with Tessa and Kyrie, they did it in Japan. They were stellar matches, and look what you did. You just threw it away, in the first round. And to me, that was just foolish.
Well, okay, so if there was a person that you didn't expect to get bounced out of the first round, aside from Kairi Sane and Tessa Blanchard, who was like the shocker of the tournament so far?
To me, it was still Tessa Blanchard. Literally.
Okay.
Because again, to me, I don't see the reason that she wasn't automatically signed.
Oh yeah.
And gobbled up by NXT, and especially now that Asuka's gone, to me, you could easily make her the face of the company,
right,
and let her take you in new directions.
And she could pull it off all as a heel, following in the footsteps with what Asuka was doing, and probably carrying it just as good, if not maybe better.
Right. Well, I mean, especially with all the build-up.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the Mae Young Classic and all the press and the tweets and the stories, how many of them had Tessa in them?
As far as promos, I think almost all of them.
Exactly. And then they did the whole thing of like Tessa Blanchard following her dad's footsteps,
Right.
a diamond in the rough, and all that.
Yeah.
And then
Go
it's almost like them and Daniel Bryan in the Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
they
Very much
build
so.
it up, and then he's out number 15. You build Tessa up, you build her up, and then she's out in the first round.
Let's go ahead and go through the first round. We'll look at how the matchups were. First matchup was Kaylee Ray versus Princess Suhei. I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced. Princess Suhei was a standout. I don't think I've ever seen her perform before, but the level that she brought it was very good, and she wins by submission.
Was she the one from India?
No.
No.
No, but we'll talk about
Yeah,
her because
I
she
thought
was a standout
good.
also.
Yeah, I thought she was really good.
And her opponent, Dakota Kai,
Yeah.
there again, we'll get to that one in just a moment. But Princessa, sorry, I want to make sure I got that right. Princessa Suhei was, first off, she was dominant. I mean, she really didn't give Kaylee Ray much breathing room. In every opportunity she had, she capitalized. There wasn't a lot of pause or wait. She was on top of it. And she wasn't your typical luchadora. She was active,
I remember now.
but she was technical, and she had a real ring awareness to her. Kaylee Ray didn't look poor. I mean, she didn't do bad in the ring, but clearly she was outclassed, in my opinion. And she lost by submission. This was a straight armbar submission, which, on the heels of what we saw with Sexy Star and Rosemary, I'm curious if they decided to air that first in the order to capitalize on that, because to see if maybe they'd get the internet buzz.
I don't know about that. I don't know if they're smart enough to even think like that.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Rob, did you have any kind of thoughts on the first matchup? All right, so let's go ahead and move into Serena Deeb making her return to WWE against Vanessa Bourne. Brian, what did you think of Vanessa Bourne?
I'd have to see. I didn't really get into it. I guess until what's her name? Baszler.
Oh, Shayna Baszler. Yeah,
Baszler.
Yeah, the MMA girl
That's
from
when
the
I
Four
really
Horsewomen.
was like, "Oh, this is going to get good."
Yeah.
So the first two, again, were kind of throwaway. So I got nothing on the second.
Vanessa Bourne is an NXT female. She's done pretty well for herself. I don't know a lot about her. I know that she was, if I remember right, she was a cheerleader, and for the Suns or something like that.
I don't know much about her, but
Yeah, I think she was NFL cheerleader.
Oh,
too,
I'm really straining to remember the
That
video
was the
promo.
one.
Yeah, that's who it
her
was.
size
Yes.
is this.
Yeah.
And she had a hell of a ring gear.
Yeah.
But
She should
she did
probably
well.
change it though.
And but she had a great look to her, a great attitude to her. She played the heel very well, and you really didn't think Serena Deeb was going to win. So when she did come out on top, it was a good surprise. Next matchup this is the one that really drew Brian in. Shayna Baszler, 1/4 of the Four Horsewomen, took on Zeta, and that's about all I can say about Zeta because I was not impressed. Had an interesting look, kind of a judo kind of presentation, but again, outclassed, outmatched. Shayna Baszler took her. That was it. No real rhyme or reason to having that match go any longer than it needed to.
Slam into the rear naked choke.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Will kind of make you stand up and be like, "Oh, that's impressive."
Ronda Rousey and the crew were in the front row for that, so they really enjoyed it. Abby Lath and Jazzy Gabbard. While Abby Lath didn't really impress me, Jazzy Gabbard is a big, muscular, badass woman. And if somebody doesn't sign her up from this, they're losing out. She is, I feel bad for saying it like this because it's going to sound mean. She is a more slim Nia Jax. That's what I think of. She's a monster. She can throw you around, but she can work in the ring. And there's some psychology with how she behaves.
The comments and concerns of Stan Grubb are not those.
Now, I would have put her, I mean, not to sound mean or anything, but more like a better wrestler, like Nicole Bass. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Just like a
Yeah.
very big, broad-shouldered,
Yeah.
you know.
What they were hoping Nicole Bass was going to be.
Yeah. You know, just somebody that literally you can just look at and be like, there's no way this other, you know, her opponent's going to win.
Well, that was the surprise. I mean, Gabbert, she was the talk of the internet when she was announced for this tournament. And this was one of those upsets. Abby Lath comes away with the victory after a roll-up. I hate matches that end in roll-ups. I'm not going to ever change my stance. I just hate roll-ups. Come on, cut it out. Stop it. Small package wins. What the hell?
His mama wouldn't let him have fruit roll-ups as a kid.
No, she wouldn't. She was very mean.
So, question. Where do you think the WWE goes from the Mae Young Classic? Do they then try a Cruiserweight Classic, doing a 205 Live? Do they do a new generation of Glow with the Mae Young Classic?
I honestly hope they don't do an all-women show, simply because the main roster and NXT need women talent so bad. You have all this time on Raw and all these throwaway matches that they have, like with Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel and all that. When you've got as many talented women on the roster as you have, and you're not putting them in those positions, if you force feed more women in that roster, you're going to have a choice, and that's put the people's choice, put Tessa Blanchard, Rachel Ellering, Kairi Sane, put them on television, and start shuffling out these guys that you just don't have any intentions with, or you're going to expose yourself in a real big way, and these women will leave, and you'll have to push those guys to put them in a position to be successful. Either way, it benefits the company. You can't, right now, the challenge of 205 Live is it's broadcast live after SmackDown from the same venue. So that venue's already had 2 hours straight of TV. Plus, there's that downtime, this setup. You know, they got to tear down the SmackDown portion, redo with 205 Live. And if you watch SmackDown and then you watch 205 Live, there's a huge difference in the crowd reaction. And I would hate to see that happen with the women because they're looking at taking 205 off.
But if done correctly and they make it an actual individual touring company, I think it would be quite successful.
I think 205 Live needs to follow the example of NXT. Record from Full Sail University.
Right.
Totally separate. You record at a different time. It's not traveling with the main roster, because I've argued this for months, is when you show me Cedric Alexander versus, you know, whoever on Monday night or SmackDown, why am I going to tune in to 205 Live to see it again?
Right.
You're giving me the best on Raw. So why would I tune in and see it again? You know, it's just like on Raw when they used to tell you everything that was going to happen on SmackDown. Well, why the hell watch SmackDown?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and that's the challenge. WWE wants two separate brand entities with SmackDown and Raw, but they don't really. They want to still cross-promote. They still want to advertise each other's pay-per-views, but they don't really want it to be separate. So it hurts them. I think that a women's-only show could be successful, but I don't think WWE can do it. I don't think they have enough. If Triple H is at the helm, it works.
Right.
But with the current power regime, it won't work.
Yeah, and again, to take Rob's point, you don't necessarily have to give them the touring schedule
Right.
of Raw and SmackDown. But however, I mean, literally, I want you to think about this. Charlotte, Asuka, Sasha, Becky, Natty. All right? So we can take those 5. And then we're going to add in Martinez,
Right.
Storm,
Right.
Blanchard, Garrett, Nevin, just for you.
Yeah.
Throw Piper in there.
I mean, she was impressive.
Rachel, Marty Bell, Mia,
Yep.
the MMA girl, I can't
Shayna
pronounce.
Baszler.
Baszler,
Yeah.
Peyton Royce, Billy Kay, Nia Jax, Alexa Bliss, and tell me that is not only a star-studded roster, but your best roster out of any show you have.
I would probably be more inclined to watch that than Raw or SmackDown, without hesitation.
Your best talent on one show, and it would eclipse every other show you have.
Easily.
And
So,
then, not to mention poor, what's that girl's name? The honorable mention.
Carmella?
No.
everybody in unison says no.
The one they kept showing in all the promos getting beat up.
Oh, Solo Darling.
Solo Darling. Yeah, she should get an honorable mention.
I know I'm gonna catch heat from Wicked Nemesis for this, but Renee Michelle just stood out to me as not needing to be there. She was clumsy. She seemed nervous. These girls that were in the ring were ready. This is their spotlight moment. And for a woman as talented and charismatic as Solo Darling, to see her getting her butt kicked in all these promo videos to not be on the tournament and for Renee Michelle to be there, that was disappointing for me.
Right, because she's got the look. She's got the gimmick.
Yeah.
She's over with the crowd.
And she'd be
And
over
she's
with
known.
kids. Yeah.
And she puts on good shows.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And I know Renee Michelle is relatively new to the industry, so as I said, I know that I'll hear about this from Wicked Nemesis, but I also know that everybody has an opportunity to make a mistake and then recover, so there's no telling what she'll do in the future. I'm saying in her taping, in this matchup for the first round, it didn't seem like she was supposed to be there. She just didn't seem comfortable. So let's go through the first round results after. It was Shayna Baszler and Zeta. Baszler wins easily. And then, of course, as we get to the next set of matches, that's where we start getting into kind of a rarefied air. We start to see Rachel Ellering. We start to see Mia Yim, Marty Bell, Tessa Blanchard, Kairi Sane, Mercedes Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
These are the cream of the crop. In any women's roster, whether it's Shimmer, Shine, Roar down in Atlanta, Queens of Combat, Women of Honor.
You know, I forgot Kairi Sane earlier when I was going on my talent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I think it goes without saying that what they're probably going to do, even if Kairi Sane doesn't win the tournament, I have a feeling she'll be champion very quickly. If in fact, like Tessa Blanchard and Rachel Ellering don't get signed, which, again, I say that's a mistake, but if they don't, then Kairi Sane's your next women's champion for NXT, I think.
Well, I think Rachel gets on.
I hope so. We were talking about it before we started this evening. I don't know if there's any truth behind it. I've not seen anything that would really indicate it, but there is some rumbling that maybe Rachel Ellering is getting a little big for her britches, saying that maybe she's got a little bit of an ego backstage. Every time we've met her, she's been great. So I'm still a huge fan, and I don't know that I believe that she has an ego.
You got a Rachel Ellering t-shirt.
No, but I got a cool picture and an autograph. It drives me nuts. You hear about these young stars, Rachel Ellering.
Stop reading The Observer.
Well, no, it's not actually from them. It's actually it was from The Torch. So there. How about that?
And who they quote?
I don't know.
The Observer.
Mike Johnson is on there.
They always quote the Observer.
I don't know. I should start checking their sources. Damn it. But
Write your own stories.
Yeah.
well, I could probably make up better news than what some of the crap
Oh,
we
look,
read.
there's a roll-up.
Damn it.
That's Randy Anderson.
Pee-wee. May he rest in peace.
All right, get
Did
back
I
to
not
the-
go to a WCW show with a Randy Anderson fan club?
You
Side.
did. You did. That was actually really cool. But let's kind of keep on this same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
you hear about these young stars that get egos so early in their career, and it kills it. Like, they just never come out of it. I don't know any truth behind it, but I've heard rumblings the same thing for, like, Taylor Hendricks, who's immensely talented in the ring, former TNA gut check standout, but in the independent scene, the word is apparently she is pretty egotistical. But I don't know that.
Get back to the Mae Young Class.
Right. Thank you, Brian. Let's get back on track.
Sorry, Rob. I had
So,
to do it.
We were left off
I had to
with
pull the punk card.
Shayna Baszler and Zeta. Do you have the?
What? You're killing me, kid. You're all over the place. You've been
Wait.
smoking crack.
You said to get back to the Mae Young Classic, so I'm going back to the Mae Young Classic, finishing out the first round.
Oh, here we
What's
go.
in his drink over there? That's
I
what you
know.
wanna
That's
eat.
what I like to know. Because we were on the second day, and Baszler on the first.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm just
Oh,
trying
my
to
goodness
keep
gracious.
up. buddy.
Rob
Second verse, same as the first.
stands a crackhead.
I am not. Guys suck.
Hey,
So
hey. First step is acceptance.
And admit you have a mistake or
Yeah.
have a problem.
but I don't have
If
a
you
problem.
don't admit you have a problem, we can't help you.
Is this a radiovention? Shh. Damn it. Don't tell
It's
anybody.
really hard to look at him with the headset on sometimes.
Why?
Because the thing sits so far above his head.
I know there is some distance there. It's like I saw my shadow when we did this last week, and it was like, wow, you could like get like a claw thing and just pull me up. Little weird. I'm not looking forward to seeing how we look when we're sitting at a table or anything. That's gonna be awkward. Hey, let's talk standouts. Marty Bell, Rachel Ellering.
Evers.
What did you think about that
Evers,
matchup?
yeah, Evers.
Oh, excuse me, Rachel Evers.
Get it
Ms.
right.
Evers.
Hey, yeah, I don't understand why they did that when they said her dad was Paul
Yeah.
Ellering.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point of that?
Well, to kayfabe gone.
Yeah, we've had that conversation. I don't want to get in trouble again. Jeez, I'm bringing up kayfabe, start getting kicked in the ass. I mean, jeez. All right, so we already said that we were surprised that some of these matchups came about the way they did in the first round rather than second round or leading up. So Marty Bell and Rachel Evers, actually a pretty good matchup. Marty Bell did look good in her first real. Do you call this a tryout or a tryout run with WWE?
Well, I think this whole tournament's a tryout.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think the talent is learning with the Cruiserweight Classic. How many of them had contracts before it was over?
Jeez, well,
You know?
Cedric, of course, and then there's Perkins and everybody.
Because you
Yeah.
think about how many people were in the Cruiserweight Classic,
Mhm.
and then how big the Cruiserweight division is at WWE. It's 5 people.
Did you guys notice a difference in how the Cruiserweight Classic was built up versus the Mae Young Classic? Like the hype train as far as Cruiserweight Classic was huge, and they built it up every week, and you showed small highlight packs for different guys. The Mae Young Classic, up until about a month ago, did we see any real promo for it?
I think they're trying to push everything to the network. They're trying to drive everything to the network.
Right.
So then, like I said, if they're going to promo it and show it on Raw,
Mm-hmm.
are you really going to go to the network to see it? You know? But it seemed like you got more of an update and more of a play-by-play on the live shows than you do with this.
That's something that I'm glad you brought up also. What are your thoughts on Jim Ross and Lita doing color commentary for this tournament. Brian, what'd you think of that?
I have no problem with it.
It didn't seem like they were really calling the matches. They're actually quite quiet while they're going on.
Well, I think you've got Jim Ross, who is coming back to his role at WWE, trying to find his home, trying to figure out where he's going to be. And then you've got Lita, who has always been quiet. Now she's in that more I can't be quiet role, if it makes sense. So I think as it goes on, you'll see that it builds.
Let's go forward to Mia Yim and Sarah Logan. Here's another first time for a lot of people seeing Sarah Logan, unless you're in the UK. Well, I'm sorry. She is from Kentucky. My mistake. But I've not seen much of her. Mia Yim, on the other hand, we know from the Dollhouse over on Global Force, formerly known as TNA. This matchup wasn't bad, but I didn't really get a good feel for what either woman could do. So it didn't really tell any kind of true representation for how they perform. Just seemed kind of rushed, but there again, I was kind of glad to see Mia Yim move forward. I guess the guys agree.
Sure, it's your dime. Just stay on target.
Stay on target.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rob.
Indeed.
Rob with the affirmation. Keep going. Keep pushing. All right, so
You can do it.
now we get to one of my favorites, Piper Niven. Niven, however it's pronounced.
Really? I mean, you haven't talked about her all night long.
I know,
but,
right?
You know.
And Santana Garrett. Talk about a difference between two different styles. But the matchup was really good, and I was really surprised with how quickly Piper moved. But to Brian's point, I was kind of surprised that Santana didn't win. Really kind of a shocker for this tournament.
Yeah, to me that was like the first. Because even with Rachel and Marty, you could see them going with Rachel, just because she's been in NXT before,
Right.
She's known in WWE a little bit, so you can almost see that. To me, this is the first real big upset, I guess you'd call it. For me, anyway. I was expecting Garrett to go into the further rounds.
So then, of course, we get to the last matchup of the first round with Kairi Sane taking on Tessa Blanchard in what I can only describe as, and I think we'd all agree, way too early in the tournament for this matchup, but it was a matchup deserving of pretty much the finals. Kairi Sane was impressive. She was fast. Tessa Blanchard kept pace, so it wasn't like either one of them couldn't keep up with the other. And the story was told, here's your brand new NXT-like superstar in Kairi Sane. And to me, that was what it told. It wasn't, this is Tessa Blanchard's big chance. This is Kairi Sane's coming out party for WWE. So is it just a cakewalk for her for the next round? I mean, does she just walk right through the
Who does
competition?
she face next round?
Let's see here.
Because, I don't really think they missed but so much with who made it to the next round, if that makes sense. I just think that Tessa and Santana should have gotten in there somehow.
Right.
To me, it just depends on who she faces next. There are some ones. There are certain people. I don't know how well she'll stack up against them.
What about Dakota Kai versus the first female wrestler from India in WWE? WWE. Blah, 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 blah. Kavita D? Was that what her name was? I got to look that back up here. Yeah, Kavita Devi. Sorry. The first Indian woman to compete in WWE. And she was trained by the great Khali. Guys, would that make you nervous just hearing that?
Makes me feel sorry for her.
She carried herself well. No, she didn't look like she was going to break her own legs just by walking to the ring. But she was intimidating. Like, she came to the ring and she was all business. And Dakota Kai, maybe a little bit lighter version of Bayley, a little bit more athletic. But that finish she hit, that kick to the face that she hit on the big Indian woman, damn. And I mean, that was really impressive. Matchup itself, I think that Miss Devi has tremendous promise for her future. She definitely has some upside. Dakota Kai, I think, does as well. What did you think about Bianca Belair with the big old hair braid, where she was using that as a weapon, hitting people with it?
I thought she was good.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if she was as polished as some of these people. I don't know. This was my first time seeing her.
Right,
so
mine as well.
I'm not too familiar with her beyond this, but I mean, I kind of like that little sassy. I mean, literally, she'd be in the ring twirling her hair.
Yeah.
You know? I thought it was kind of cool.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah. So the second round, bracketing is available for the second round. So, guys, let's go ahead and read through this.
All right. Takes predictions.
What's that?
Predictions?
Yeah, let's go ahead and lay out the second round, do our predictions. Now, folks, you can catch the second round tomorrow night after Monday Night Raw. Round 2 of the Mae Young Classic will be available. And, quick correction, Brian had mentioned this last week, and I actually thought that it was incorrect, but he was right. The finals will be live.
What?
On September 12th. I said Brian was right.
September 12th?
September 12th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on the WWE Network. So, second round. First matchup for the second round, Abby Lath versus Rachel Evers. I'm going to have to go with Rachel here. I think Rachel's moving along.
Who did Abby face the first go round?
Abby Lath took on Jazzy Gabbert.
Ooh. I'll have to say Rachel.
Rob?
I'm going on a limb. I'm saying Rachel.
Don't go too far on that limb, buddy. I don't want you to fall. All right, next matchup. Princessa Suhei versus Mercedes Martinez. I think that's where Suhei's train stops, because I think Mercedes Martinez makes a victim out of her.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Martinez. Rob?
Oh, with Martinez.
I'm so glad you're holding on tight to that limb, buddy.
I mean...
Nikki Savoy
taking on an arm reach of Brian. I don't want him to come out.
That's a good point.
You call your own shots. You're good.
Candice LeRae versus Nicole Savoy.
I'm gonna say LeRae.
I was really impressed with Candice LeRae.
I'm gonna say Savoy.
Dare to be different. Here comes Rob.
That's because I told him I wouldn't hurt him. That's why.
Yes. I'm going to say Candice LeRae. Next matchup, Shayna Baszler versus Mia Yim.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
I don't see Mia Yim going toe-to-toe with Shayna Baszler very long.
Well, the thing about Baszler is she's going to have to get stopped sooner or later. So why not have her get stopped by somebody that may very well be able to out-wrestle her?
Oh, and Mia Yim.
Yim. And plus, Mia does have a martial arts background, so she will stack up better than her first opponent.
And here's the thing. We need an upset in this second round, and that might be the one.
Yeah, although I'm not saying I want to see it.
Right.
You know, because I like both of these competitors, but I think Mia may get the win.
I'm going to say Baszler. Brian's got Mia. Rob?
Baszler.
All right. Next matchup. This one is probably going to be a quick one. I think she's going to make short work of her next one. Kairi Sane taking on Bianca Belair. Yeah, the braid may have been impressive, but
Bye, Bianca.
yeah, I have a feeling Kairi Sane is going to kick her to the curb. And it seems to be unanimous. There's a lot of nodding going on. You can't see it, but I can see it.
Because I'm pretty sure we were the ones that, kind of pushed her.
Yeah. Well,
before the Mae Young Classic.
As soon as the word came out that they were looking into it, everybody's talking about all their chosen women's wrestlers, and we were one of the few that gravitated to Kairi Hojo with that devastating elbow that she hits from the top.
Yeah, and plus, she, if I remember right, she has been signed by the WWE, so she is one of the few that is actually under contract with them.
And they kept her under the radar the whole time, which is super smart. All right, next matchup, Dakota Kai versus Rhea Ripley. I don't remember much of Rhea Ripley's matchup, and that speaks volumes. I'm going with Dakota Kai.
Dakota Kai.
Rob says Rhea Ripley. Okay, thanks, Rob.
What?
If you're going to give the thumbs up, I'm giving you whatever I want. All right, Serena Deeb versus Piper Niven. Rob picks Niven.
I think I'm going to have to go Niven also.
Again, I like Piper Niven, but I have a feeling they're trying to do an underlying story with Serena Deeb and her comeback to WWE. So
every on
oh my
the
God,
first round, everybody had an underlying story, and they threw half of them out.
Is she going to put "the" in front of her name?
The Serena Deeb. I'm going to pick Serena Deeb. I'm going to just do it. That's not to say that I don't want to see Piper Niven on WWE TV. All right, final matchup of the second round, Lacey Evans, who, by the way, looked really good in her matchup. She was the Marine mother, wife. I mean, that's a lot to juggle, man.
Yeah.
How she manages to stay active as a performer on top of all that's difficult. But she's taking on Toni Storm. In and of itself, this is going to be a hard one. How do you pick? This is a coin flip, really.
Yeah, this may be the match of the second round.
The sleeper, yeah.
Well, not just to me.
Just
it's
what you
not the
think
sleeper.
is.
I'm talking like this could be the match of the second round.
Damn, who do you pick for this?
Because
you really, realistically, you win either way. You got a great story in Lacey Evans, and you can push that to the moon. And you've got a limited time frame with her as well.
Well, no, Evans is NXT, right?
She qualified on NXT. I don't know if she's on the roster officially.
I thought they said she was.
Maybe she is.
I thought they said she was NXT.
You know what? You might be right.
So I will go with Storm then.
I know, twice in one. What the hell?
2 times in a show.
Damn it. It happens. I mean,
Sometimes you're the windshield. Sometimes you're the bug.
Yeah, what he said.
I'm going to go with Storm. I like Storm.
All right.
So,
Rob.
Storm.
Well, then I'm going with Evans.
I'm pretty sure you already said that.
Oh, yeah. I knew that.
You're like,
no take backs.
Evans.
Triple stamp, no erases. So I think we would agree that the Mae Young Classic, while it's had some hiccups first round, the potential for it to continue to be a groundbreaking tournament and exciting finale is still there.
Yeah, but something tells me that the second round is probably going to eliminate some of the bigger competition, especially if they want Kyrie or Candice to get to the end.
Well, I mean, the semifinals, you can kind of already predict maybe Candice LeRae and Kairi Sane in one of the semis, and then maybe
opposite brackets.
Oh, maybe put them to the finals.
Yes, that I because I told you outside.
Yeah.
Now that Tessa's gone, I think Candace has probably the best shot to face Kyrie in the finals.
I have a feeling one side of the semis is going to be Kyrie Sane against, I just had it, probably Rachel Ellering. And then on the other side will be Candice LeRae. And if my gut is right, I'm going to say they're going to put Shayna Baszler at least to the semis, if not the finals.
To me, she's too dangerous.
She's done pretty well on Shimmer, from what I've seen, but you have a point because it's not the same product. It's not the same style. It's not the same attitude.
Well, to me, though, it's not about attitude. She is so dangerous. And then you literally would take very small women and put them against her.
Yeah.
Where literally she should just tie them up and have them talking out of their butts, like a pretzel.
See your lips, they turning blue.
Yeah. So I think Baszler gets eliminated. I think if anybody, it'll be Martinez who makes the quarterfinals.
I could see that. So maybe we're looking at Candice LeRae, Kyrie Sane in the finals, but everything leading up to that.
Right.
That could be interesting. So we go from the Mae Young Classic. We've talked about Monday Night Raw.
Why don't you tell them when the second round is?
Second round, of course, airs. It is dropping on the WWE Network. I did say this just a moment ago. Airs on WWE Network tomorrow night. Let's see. Episodes 5 through 8
Rob's going to pop.
Are going to be available on demand tomorrow night. Probably, I would say, 11 p.m. Eastern, something like that. Whenever Raw goes off the air.
So it's 3 episodes.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All right. So how many matches do we have?
Round 2, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8.
8. So there's 2 per.
Yeah.
But they have to wrap it up before next week if that's the finals?
Yeah, the 12th is the finals. It's on a Tuesday from Las Vegas at 10 o'clock. It's going to air right after SmackDown.
So they must, the 12th, the one on the 12th must have the quarterfinals and the finals.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how they put this together. I like what they're doing, but I agree with you. The dynamic of what they've done and how they built it up has some room for improvement. But that's why they got next year. Maybe they can do it again next year.
Well, again, y'all are stupid if y'all don't sign a lot of these women.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even if they didn't do a women's only show, which they definitely could, but even if they didn't, just backfilling NXT, SmackDown, and Raw, you're only helping your roster, and you're getting rid of dead weight. If you're not happy with what Carmella's doing at this stage of the game, and you don't want her to cash in and be champ, you've got talent waiting in the wings, so you can fill that gap.
Right. And not just talent you could put on TV.
Yes, that are ready for TV.
Yes.
And then, of course, you've got, Lana. If she's truly that unhappy and her and Rusev are going to leave, you got a person that can fill that role easily and can shine in there. And then if you want to start upgrading and getting rid of people you just don't have intentions for.
And who doesn't want to see Charlotte and Tessa Blanchard
oh my God,
together?
How cool would that be? I'm in. You win. I'm in. Where do I sign up for that?
And then, have them team together and just get dirty and nasty, and then somewhere down the line they split and they feud.
Couldn't you just see Tessa, Charlotte, Becky, and maybe Sasha or Bayley? I still want to see Bayley turn. I want to see a bad guy Bayley.
Well, that's where I would bring in like Tony Storm and Martinez.
Yeah.
And throw the 4 of them together.
Baszler, that's a great idea. Oh, yeah.
You can do all types of things with this.
And then there's still a rumor that Ronda Rousey is ready to take her attempt at WWE, which could suck. If we're not careful, it could.
Yeah, could be.
So let's talk about something else that's been in the news. I mean, there's not a lot going on overseas right now. G1 Climax
Yeah, but they are the 5th and 6th. There is another like little mini tournament.
Oh, okay. And this
I
is
will
for
try and catch up. New Japan.
Is this for the Intercontinental title shot?
That I'm not sure of because I don't read Japanese. The only thing I can read is the dates.
Okay.
So I will.
Oh, that's Dominion or something like that.
I don't know. Tomorrow I will try and catch up.
Okay.
On whatever I can find.
Haven't seen much from Lucha Underground, except still more chatter about Sexy Star and her, I guess you could say, attack on Rosemary.
Well, you said Lucha Underground, and Rob's got a smile.
Rob
got news.
Is it Lucha time? Lucha.
Wrong show. I'll show you two.
We're older guys, so it takes us a little longer to get the arms up. Lucha.
Well, after the buildup of Rey Mysterio coming back and going against Johnny Mundo, just for Johnny Mundo to cheat and win again, they just had, and now I'm drawing a blank.
It must have been a really impactful episode.
Mil Muertes is coming back.
Yes!
And he's going against Rey Mysterio in the temple.
Oh.
And I would just say that the matches have been awesome. Like, the matches from beginning to end. Oh, yeah. Son of Havoc versus Son of Madness.
Wait, what? Stop
Son
right
of
there.
Havoc.
Who is Son of Madness?
Looks just like Son of Havoc, just bigger.
Bigger?
Oh, crap.
That's a pretty big dude to begin with.
Yeah, right? He's not small. All right, I'm instantly hitting the Google.
And
continue, Rob, please.
It was the battle over the colors because Son of Madness came and took Son of Havoc's colors, and that was a hell of a match.
There's not another Poffo out there somewhere, is it?
Did Randy Savage have a child?
I mean, it was all over the temple, in the bleachers, in the back. Amazing. Coming out, the victor holding his hand up high. Son of. We'll see you next week.
Wow.
They
I'm
did
just
it.
kidding.
They did old school.
No.
Here we go. Son of Madness. Dude, it's like looking at Matt Cross or Son of Havoc, only not because it's somebody else.
So I'm saying, Son of Havoc beating, though.
Does he got a twin, maybe?
I don't know, dude. But
I mean, that is pretty close. I wonder if you can get a side-by-side picture.
Hey, wait. I know that guy. That's not Jeremiah Crane. Get that crap out of it. That's Sammy Callahan.
Get out of here.
Lucha Underground stealing talent. And by the way, Mr. Hefner, Johnny Mundo is now known as Thursday Night Delight? Johnny Impact.
But
I still haven't watched it.
On my DVR, one show he's Johnny Mundo. Then you watch Impact, and he's there as Johnny Impact.
But doesn't that put a damper on this season of Lucha Underground? Knowing that Johnny Mundo will not win anything else?
Or the fact that he's still champ on Lucha Underground.
How does Rey Mysterio look? Does he look like he's moving good? Because honestly, I haven't seen him in Lucha.
He looks good. I mean, the thing about Lucha Underground, when you think about having Rey Mysterio, you think with early days of Lucha Underground, it was all about Rey Mysterio. You know? Well, now they don't need Rey Mysterio the whole time. You've got, as I said, you've got Joey Ryan coming in, you've got Madness, you've got Havoc, you've got Mil Muertes.
What do they call Joey Ryan?
Joey Ryan. And then you've got the other guy that looks like Joey Ryan that's just crazy, psycho dude.
Marty DeMoth?
Yes.
Yeah, he's cool. Martin Casal is from Tough Enough fame. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I could do without the little soap opera vignettes that they do.
Mm-hmm.
At first were cool, but I would put their ring work up against WWE.
Wow.
I mean, they bring it. It's like watching NXT that's not afraid to bleed. I mean, Marty the Moth's match, he fought a guy, ripped his mask to the point where the dude was bleeding all
Dang.
over the place.
Ew.
And that wasn't even the main event. That's just like...
Welcome to Lucha Underground. He's bleeding.
Exactly. I mean, they had Sexy Star in a match a few months ago where she was in the rafters. She was in the rafters dripping blood on the on down.
Ew.
Like,
that's nasty, actually.
but literally in the rafter. Like, this is pre, like, Rosemary.
Right.
So this is back when Sexy
Armbar
Star
of
was
Doom.
still cool. Now we just have to refer to it as that Sexy Star we can't talk about.
But we just said her. Yeah, okay. We'll move.
Oops, sorry.
Moving on.
I never really talked about her anyway. That's just me.
I thought she was good. I never saw. Apparently, people thought that she was not good, but I thought she was damn talented in Lucha Underground.
I'm not saying she wasn't good. I thought it was intriguing to see her wrestle men.
Mm-hmm.
She took on Joey Ryan last week.
Yeah,
Good
but,
for Joey Ryan. Yeah. Wait, is that the wrong thing to say?
I didn't say it.
what?
I was saying good for Joey Ryan for getting to mix it up with Sexy Star.
Does he do the whole
lollipop?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I know the lollipop is no problem. It's the
the plex.
penis.
He doesn't do that.
He doesn't do that.
Oh man, that would play very well in the temple, I think.
Yeah.
Dario Cueto comes out. We don't do that in my temple.
Oh, but Son of Havoc, Son of Madness was for a,
Ooh, gift of the
Another
gods.
medallion?
yeah,
Nice.
medallion.
How many medallions they got?
Well, what they
6.
do is they put it in a belt, and then somebody, it's like the Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
You cash it in. Oh, wait a minute! All of a sudden, all these little things fall out again, and
And
Get mean beating the tar out of everybody.
being a belt aficionado, I can say the gift of the gods belt looks cool. Although it seems like it would fall apart pretty quick.
I like the Lucha Underground World Title. I think that looks cool.
Yeah. It's a huge like circle medallion in the front, and it's like a Mayan design. It looks really neat. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about something that I saw first on Twitter about Sasha Banks. And we're not really looking to do a WWE centric show this week, but
Oh my! Stop it!
there's a lot of news.
Stop!
He's
it.
making up news.
No, this is something that's out there.
You little
We
mark.
just
You.
talked.
Don't call me that.
We just talked
You-
about Lucha Underground,
That's
and then
right.
you're going to go back there.
Right.
Well,
Brian
it's-
hasn't gotten to give us an update on.
Oh yeah, you were.
Yeah,
you were in the potty.
You were potty.
Yeah, you were pottying.
Oh, you gave us an Impact update.
No, I don't do impact
We don't
updates.
do
That's
Impact.
yours. We established that some time ago.
Impact lost us episode 3, I think. We weren't able to keep up.
Well, Cornette's back,
Good for him. Glad to hear see Cornette on TV.
and he's doing the whole. Oh well, you all can get along. You're a tag team now.
Oh,
I mean, I guess I probably should check out the episode, being that I've TiVo the thing, and I don't think I've watched one in the last 6 months. So after about 5 episodes sitting on my DVR, I then start deleting them.
I
Without
think
watching
after the final deletion or total nonstop deletion, I stopped watching. Once the Hardys had left, I was no longer interested.
Well, but apparently it is supposed to be getting pretty good now. So
Well, I did see a news bit that they were down to 200,000 in viewership.
Well, I can tell you one reason why they're down is this stupid angle they've got with Bobby Lashley.
Is that the one where he said he's no longer going to be in Impact? He's going to go back to MMA or whatever.
Right. Well, then they got this whole faction of MMA guys, and every week they do this behind the scenes. Jeff Jarrett and the MMA guy arguing, yelling at each other, and every week that I've watched, it ends up with these MMA guys in the middle of the ring yelling.
You know, I will have to say, though, that I am quite proud that Rob tries to hide his affliction for Impact.
The allegiance is there.
Yes, but then Stan just happened to just bring it right out, and look at him. He's like a social butterfly now.
Well, you know
the wings
why?
have spread.
The only reason that I watched Impact, one, I was homesick and I had nothing to do.
Eli Drake.
No.
Yeah, dummy.
Because they got Jim Cornette on it. And I'm wondering what Jim Cornette's going to do and make it different.
Is that what that stupid button, is that right?
Yeah, it says, yeah, dummy.
Oh, is that what it is? I can never remember what that little button says.
What do you think about Eli Drake being their champion? I mean, I like Eli Drake. He's actually pretty good. But you got so many bigger names there. I mean, James Storm immediately comes to mind as why wouldn't you put him in?
Yeah, but maybe
They punked him out to Loki.
And then Loki leaves.
They punked James Storm out to Loki?
Yes.
And then again, Loki turned around and left.
What the hell?
I'm out of here, Jack.
Well, here's what they did. They had Eli Drake and that other dude.
What
Other guy.
Adonis, Master.
Oh, Chris Adonis.
Yeah,
okay,
Chris
yeah.
Adonis.
Well, they had them tag up against EC3 and... Oh, dear Lord.
That's what we all say.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
Impact, so it's like...
Yeah.
Oh, he almost did it. Yeah.
Yeah, dummy.
Yeah.
Yeah, dummy.
I'm gonna get a soundbite of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, dummy.
Oh, doesn't he just do, yeah? He does that too, I think.
Yeah.
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 Well, if the team of EC3 would have beat the team of Eli Drake and...
Adonis.
Yeah. Then one of them would be the number one contender. If the team of Eli Drake and... Yeah.
Yeah.
wins, then Eli Drake doesn't have to defend his title against anyone.
And this is Jim
Ever?
Cornette's idea?
Yeah.
Oh,
Ever
jeez.
or just up until the next pay-per-view?
I guess the next.
I mean,
So-
that is a heck of a deal right there.
Cornette's immediately on the take.
Eli Drake won.
Yeah.
Eli Drake and that dude won.
Yeah.
So
That guy.
so
Yeah, dummy.
here you go.
Wow. Yeah,
Your
and they're
next
in
paper-
like...
Your next pay-per-view is going to be Eli Drake versus no one.
Yeah.
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 Well, at
Doug
least.
Dillinger.
There we go. Reason enough to not watch Impact.
No, yeah, but again, though, I think they've been putting
Who the
some
heck is
quality
that guy?
stuff out.
It's a B grade Scott Hall right there. Or D grade.
So
We got a War Games on right now where it's the Alliance to end Hulkamania against Hogan, Savage, Sting.
that Doug
Luger.
Dillinger.
But see that guy with the Polaroid camera over the back? That's the best.
Those old school shows are great, man.
Oh,
Oh, you're going in there.
yeah,
Get in that
snatched
cage.
him up.
You dirty bastard. Look at
How'd
Sting.
Sting get out?
Ming about kicks him in the face. Take that. I killed you. I wouldn't want to fight Ming. I
The
don't
match,
care about
the dang on thing doesn't even start. Oh,
him. Uh-oh. There's Hogan. He's got his Yapapa strap or whatever it's called.
oh my goodness gracious!
Other people call it a belt.
Right.
I mean, I didn't watch this live, but did we all fall for this stuff? Stupid stuff.
Yes, sadly. Makes you wonder. Like,
Wow.
were wrestlers like Daniel Bryan out there and we were getting stuck with this garbage?
All right, so here's a question.
Okay.
I want y'all to ponder this. We're going to play a little game of what if.
Oh, no.
This may
Not
be
the
a
what
new
if.
segment.
Yeah.
But here's the first one.
Okay.
Okay, so we all know Dusty Rhodes used to book for WCW,
Yes.
right?
The roll.
And then there came a time where him and Ric Flair kind of had the outs as far as, what Flair wanted and what Rhodes and the booking committee wanted.
Yeah.
And then there came a time where new management came in and Dusty Rhodes was out.
Mm-hmm.
And they replaced him. Right? So here's the question. If they've been able to keep the ship right by saying, let Dusty Rhodes book Flair out and giving a newer talent at the time the world title, right? Fresh faces and all that stuff. And they hadn't hired guys like Hogan and them. And again, Dusty stays head booker.
Mm-hmm.
No new management to oust him out. Do you think they could have competed with his genius against the WWE or WWF?
Is Bischoff still the guy in charge, but Dusty's booking?
Sure. Let's go there. Because
right.
if Bischoff was the innovator, right? But they didn't because Dusty kept the books.
Right.
And so we don't need Hogan. We don't need none of these guys. We got the people to push now. So you're
Right.
talking Austin, Pillman,
92
Steen,
WCW. Okay.
Arn.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Do you think they could have competed?
Oh, gosh. Rob, why don't you answer first?
I would like to say yes, because it would give the country something they hadn't seen before.
Yes.
But I don't think WCW at the time was as mainstream as it would needed to be.
I don't know about not that mainstream because they ruled TBS. They were filmed in Universal, wherever. Yeah, Universal. Wasn't that it? Or Disney, whatever.
It was
Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, Hollywood Studios.
And you're talking just they had Raw was coming about on TV soon thereafter.
Okay, so we're looking at late
that
92,
time frame.
early 93.
Early 90s.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well,
Back when Flair leaves WWE to come back to
WCW would still be a player today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe.
Again, if they hadn't got rid of Dusty, and Bischoff hadn't hired some of these other talents,
Because WWE wouldn't have gotten Benoit, Guerrero,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Jericho.
Malenko. Those guys wouldn't have gone to WWE before the ship sunk.
And at that level, as they progressed, Michaels was still on his road down. Brett was quickly coming up to that time where he was starting to struggle, and WWE didn't have a forward plan for new stars. So you still would have seen Razor, you still would have seen Diesel. You wouldn't have seen the NWO, I don't think. But the Horsemen would have been more prominent. You would have seen matchups that were more entertaining. You would have seen guys like, because if we're looking at 92, 93, Dustin Rhodes would have never become Goldust.
Right.
But we would have very easily seen him transition to the main event and become world champion, and probably had feuds with Flair. And
Yeah, but Flair is like, because apparently towards the end there with Dusty and Flair didn't want to give the title up. Dusty said, you need to give it up, which then resulted in the whole Rick Steiner was supposed to be world champ and beat Flair.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then then from Steiner it was going to go to crap, I can't remember who goes next.
That's 92?
I think so. Or maybe it was I think it was right after Flair comes back. It was like one of Flair's last runs.
So Flair for the gold, 93. Flair had finished his tag run with Sting and gets his title shot at Starrcade, beats Vader. That was his last major run. So
right, but they
is that
ended
time for looking
earlier,
at?
and again, Flair is out of the picture.
You know, you're right about that though, because Rick Steiner had a main event rub with Luger when Luger was on top. And there was talk, I remember that. There was talk that Rick Steiner could have honestly been world champ.
Right. And because Flair didn't want to drop it to the certain person.
Right.
And they were going to have, just to make a point, Dusty was supposed to have him lose to Steiner, and Steiner was going to turn around and drop it.
I think with Bischoff at the helm, behind the scenes, he was a genius. And so I think WCW would have been on TNT still. I think we may have even still seen Nitro, but we would have seen a WCW that was centered around wrestling, and they would have never attempted to try to copy the Attitude Era or any of that jazz. And Steve Austin, while he may never have broken through the main event in WCW, just because of how many people they had, tag team-wise and mid-card, he'd have been phenomenal. Brian Pillman, Pillman and Austin as the Hollywood Blondes, they were better than just about any tag team out there at that time.
And again, you're talking if they did an NWO, it would be completely different than what we saw.
We may have actually
with Dusty,
seen Sting.
you may not have ever seen an NWO.
In my opinion, WCW without the NWO wins the Monday Night War. If Nash and Hall never go south, WCW stays afloat, WWE loses.
Well, you got to think, if Hogan never goes south, then you don't have that main event alleyway clammed up with Macho Man, all the people that came with him.
Yeah, you don't see that trickle-down effect with
Piper.
Hogan. Yeah.
And it keeps the WCW talent that would have been able to develop. The Hollywood Blondes.
Right,
You know, you would have seen them fight for the title.
Eventually, yeah.
Break up instead of having Hogan again and all that. That's the problem.
Well, and the reason I asked you if Bischoff would still be behind the scenes in charge is because even though Dusty was booking and making some great decisions at that point, Bischoff was the one that said he didn't want to be a regional promotion. He wanted to be worldwide. He didn't want to have Jim Ross there anymore because it was too, if I remember it, he called it was too much of a Southern feel. So those decisions hurt WCW because then we saw, Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan and Gene Okerlund. Whereas if Bischoff never makes that decision, Jim Ross stays in WCW. Gordon Soley, for the later part of his run, is still around. Gary Michael Capetta. You start looking at just some of the logistics around it. The whole product would have been better, but different.
Well, I also think egos wouldn't have come into play.
I agree.
Because I think one of the downfalls of WCW was Eric Bischoff's ego.
Yeah.
When he put himself on TV, just like Vince, if Vince would have stayed on-air commentator, backstage person, instead of then putting himself in as on-air talent, if Bischoff would have stayed, all right, my role's this on camera, let everything happen, would we have seen what we saw?
If we don't see the talent migration in 95, if Hall, Nash, and their friends that later go down.
Don't forget about Triple H.
Right. If we don't see that change happen, like if the curtain call never happens, all of these things, Triple H was the heir apparent when Michaels was done. We already knew this. He was set to win 96 King of the Ring. Austin, if we go back further, Austin doesn't go up north, at least not at that point. So that whole thing, Austin 316, never happens. Imagine a wrestling world without a Stone Cold Steve Austin, without The Rock. Because if there's no Austin 316, there's no Rock.
Rock would have stayed in Rocky Maivia.
Yeah, and he would have tanked miserably. It would have been bad, like ugly bad.
This is a whole show right here.
Well, and it's a great topic, and it definitely fills in better than the thing we were going to close out with. But that's okay. I mean, Nash at that point was healthy and performing at a high level, so he may have been able to hold it.
Yeah, but see, that's the other thing, too. Nash was WCW first.
And in 93, 92, he and Scott Hall were still down south. Diamond Dallas Page may never blow up then. Johnny B. Bad, Mark Marrow, may have actually risen to the mid-card and won the U.S. title.
Yeah, but to me in WCW, he was mid-card.
I thought he was.
I always thought he was
very
an opener, but
no, he was very solid in WCW.
I was gonna draft him in that draft as my mid card.
He was very solid because he was something you hadn't seen in WCW.
he was definitely different.
Right.
Yeah. He
I mean,
had a
you
different
had
presentation.
Pillman, to me, Pillman brings the high flying stuff in first.
Uh-huh.
While when he was before the Hollywood Blondes,
Right.
And then him and Austin are the Hollywood Blondes. You don't really have the high flyer, and then here comes Johnny B. Bad, and he brings that.
You never see the infamous incident with Alundra Blaze. You never see the trash can incident. Because if Dusty's booking it, he's not doing that.
Right.
That belt never goes in the trash. She leaves it up north, if she even comes down.
Yeah, she may not even come down. Because I don't recall WCW ever really having...
Right.
I mean, even going back to NWA.
A women's division?
A women's
No,
division.
they really didn't.
If they did, it was never on. It was hardly ever shown on TV.
The Steiners never break up.
Right.
Scott Steiner probably doesn't see the main event. Because that I recall, Dusty and that group did not see the Steiners as main event. Maybe Rick. Maybe. But that's only because of how well he did against Vader and Luger and even Ron Simmons. So maybe Rick Steiner, but their breakup would have happened, I think, a lot more organically. And I think at the level they were performing, I think Steiner would have probably retired because he was getting hurt more often when they were tagging. I don't think Harlem Heat develops.
Oh, I think Harlem Heat develops. I don't think they break up.
Yeah, I don't think Booker T would have moved up. In that roster, if we're going from like 92, 93 forward, Booker T doesn't elevate. Maybe mid-card. And he was a solid talent from beginning to end. But
I can see, because I think Booker T does eventually rise. Because you will have to eventually make stars.
And you have to eventually evolve.
WCW, NWA always had that ability to find talent and then start to push them until the NWA, until Hogan showed up.
I mean, because think about it. They put the belt on Ron Garvin.
Right.
You know.
And he was huge.
Yeah.
When he held that title, he was huge. Even going back, leading up to it, he was huge.
So, I mean, you think about it, the ones that wouldn't have gotten a shot. Like you said about Diesel.
Mm-hmm.
If he stayed Diesel up north, there's only so much Diesel could do. When his true fame came when he was Kevin Nash.
Right.
When he dropped the whole... But
right, he moved on from that, yeah.
But he would be the Diamond Stud?
Vinny Vegas.
Yeah.
And the Diamond Stud. So we may never have seen Scott Hall blow up or Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
Diamond Dallas Page maybe never blows up.
What?
That's why it's tough on that time frame because there's so many main event level talents there at that time that were untapped. Austin, Pillman, the Steiners.
Right. And that's to me is the big question is because we're forgetting Mankind.
Oh yeah, Cactus Jack, and Dusty loved Cactus Jack.
Yeah, I mean, literally, if you had kept certain key pieces in play, could they have just dethroned WWE?
Would we have seen a Ric Flair versus Ricky Morton true angle that they flirted with?
92.
You know?
I think Flair would be done.
Yeah, he would have retired earlier.
Flair would then go back up north.
Right.
He would be one piece that would literally move to go up north.
What about Iron?
I think Arn, based on his talent alone, keeps him there.
I'd have paid Arn big money to keep him.
Yeah.
Because he's main event. And with Flair gone, you've got this guy that's just untapped.
Right. Even look what he did when he wasn't a horseman, when he was with Paul Heyman.
Yeah, a Dangerous Alliance. Yeah.
Right. He was still the man, even in that faction.
I mean, honestly, and we watched his matchup with Flair while we were going this evening at Fall Brawl. Arn was better than Flair in a lot of ways.
Right.
I mean, he cut a. Many people would say, and I would agree, he cut a better promo than Flair. He wrestled more fluidly than Flair.
Right.
It was Flair was just larger than life. And oh, by the way, before we go too far, hey, how about the fact that Ric Flair is on the mend and doing well? You know, we're happy to hear about that. But this is definitely an intriguing question. I think Flair goes north. I could see that happening because I think at that time, in like 92, 93, Flair had more to do up north. And had it not been for Arn and his friends saying, hey, come back,
Right.
he never does it.
Right.
So he'd have come back, made his run at Vader, and I think he'd have been done.
We'd have never seen the Crow Sting.
No, but the Surfer Sting would have had to have turned heel. Sting would have had to have turned bad. But I think Sting as a bad guy would have been huge.
Oh, imagine Sting turning bad. That hog wild moment that Hogan got.
Yeah.
And Sting coming out.
Sting's that guy, yeah.
And just turns on everybody.
Could you imagine? You got Bash at the beach. And it's not Hogan that we're waiting for. It's Sting. It's Luger and Savage are in the ring. The Outsiders are beating the tar out of them.
It wouldn't be the Outsiders, but it'd be somebody.
Right. But you have Sting come down the ramp. And just imagine, I mean, it's foreign. But like Bobby Heenan saying, whose side is he on? Like, this is Sting. Like, this is the good guy.
You could have like an incarnation of the Horseman with Arn Anderson and, Chris Benoit,
Yeah.
Dean Malenko, and then a fourth.
Pillman. Holy crap. Arn Anderson, Brian Pillman, Chris
Steve
Benoit,
Austin.
and Dean Malenko. Or
Steve
Steve Austin.
And Steve Austin would be your front guy. Because I think it wasn't Dusty. I mean, originally, Pillman and Austin were thrown together.
Right.
Because they didn't have anything to do with either one of them. Or,
Right.
And they were like, well, let's put them together and just as a placeholder. But nothing's ever going to amount to anything.
Right.
But then slowly but surely, they started building momentum. And they built such momentum that the company was like, whoa.
Right.
We are now scared of these two. We have to separate them. We have to split them.
Would, at that time frame, if Bischoff had been presented with, because imagine in 93, if Nitro airs instead of Raw. WWF sticks with primetime wrestling as their model. Because at that time, they didn't know. It was a risk. And they weren't going to do it up until the last minute, and they finally did the taping. But imagine if Nitro airs in 93 with that current product. Does Nitro take off? or do they fizzle out? I mean, WCW at that time you had WCW Pro, you had the Power Hour, you had the Main Event, you had WCW Saturday Night,
And Sunday night.
yeah,
and Sunday night.
and Sunday Night. So you had like 6 different shows, and WWF had Challenge, Superstars, Spotlight, Prime Time, Mania, the Action Zone, and I think that's it.
Do they have All American Wrestling?
Yes, All American Wrestling. Yeah. So I mean, there was no shortage of syndicated shows. Sorry, I didn't want to sneeze in everybody's ear there. God, I could go on this topic just for hours. Brian just won the show. We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
But again, literally, I mean, we're watching Fall Brawl.
Yeah, old school
95,
WCW. Yeah.
And this is a completely different WCW than what we're talking about here. But literally, some of this crap wouldn't even be on there.
Oh, yeah.
There would be none of this War Games with John Tenta and Kamala and Kevin Sullivan and
The Missing Link.
the missing
No,
Not the Missing Link.
that's
Who
the
was it?
Zodiac.
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 The Booty Man.
Yeah,
It's called, Hey, Hogan Got Me Another Job.
right.
Yeah, exactly. Savage never goes to WCW. At that point, though,
What? No, but you could see Savage going south because remember, Savage was having issues
right, in 94, yeah.
in the WWE. And if Savage moves, he doesn't have the clout that Hogan has. He doesn't have the contract Hogan has. So he probably would be okay to do business with.
What about this? Ricky Steamboat goes back to WCW late 91. Okay? If we're looking at 92 going forward, we could have easily seen another 1 or 2 title reigns for Steamboat as world champ. Barry Windham was another untapped resource in that regard. Wins the NWA title.
but you also got to remember at that time too, Barry Windham was a world champ.
Right. He beat who did he beat Muda. Yeah, he beat the great Muda for the title.
And then I think Rude beats him, and then Flair beats Rude to unify the titles or something. Somewhere along the way, they had 2 world titles.
Yeah, you had the international title or the
Right.
NWA world title, and then you had the my favorite WCW title.
The big gold.
Yeah.
10 pounds of gold. Not to be confused with the podcast.
As we get ready to close this out and head off, what is it Eddie says to the Radio Ranch or whatever?
You say it every week. It can't be Eddie anymore.
Do I say it every week?
Every week.
All right, we can't.
I'm going to the Radio Range.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound right. I'm sorry.
But here. I mean, literally, here we are talking about this, and you have Johnny B. Bad versus Brian Pillman.
This is Rob, you remember this matchup, the longest non-light heavyweight matchup in the history of WCW. And it was good. Didn't it go like 25, 30 minutes?
The
I mean, look at
longest
the
non-finish match.
Yeah.
the innovation in matches that Dusty brought that they weren't afraid to use.
Okay, the other thing that you'd have to mention, though, is
Where did
sooner
he
or
get
later...
that frisbee?
Ew.
Oh, he's got a couple of them.
Sooner or
tucked
later,
up
you got
somewhere.
to start turning people loose and firing people.
No, you don't.
I don't see how. I mean, do you keep a Marcus Alexander Bagwell at this point?
When Bagwell was with Scott Norton.
Fire
Yeah, but he had to
Ice.
get to that point.
Well,
Fire
yeah, but
Ice,
him and what's his name? The American males.
Yeah. Scotty Riggs.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with them in that tag team division.
No, that's actually they were very good as a tag team. That's a good point. I mean, would you have done signings like the Awesome Kongs or whatever they were, the big fat guys that did a one-off at Clash of Champions? I mean, would you have brought in?
But Clash of Champions, like, was that not an amazing thing to do?
Yeah,
A pay-per-view on cable in the middle of the week.
free
For
TV.
free.
Yeah,
Bam.
another Dusty creation.
The Crockett Cup was a Dusty creation.
We miss those days.
Wasn't War Games a Dusty creation?
I don't know.
I think it might have been.
I wonder if we would have seen like a modern bunkhouse brawl.
Ooh, Bunkhouse Stampede.
Well, yeah, you probably wouldn't have seen the final in a cage.
Yeah,
That was kind of a foolish idea.
I mean Barry Darso never goes. That we never see the Blacktop Bully. I don't think. Although, isn't Dusty the one that came up with the Blacktop Bully?
Well, that's when he came back here.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So-
again, though, I mean, you have to look at the talent when he was booking, and Flair they wanted to phase him out, and Flair didn't want to go.
Well, 91, after Sting beats Flair at Great American Bash, that's my favorite time in WCW, like 91 through 93, because that's when you still had the Z-Man Tom Zink wrestling some of his best matches. You still had, you had Luger,
Yeah,
who
he went
was,
Zinc.
you still had Luger, you still had,
You got a Z spot.
Wyndham, you had the Steiners, you had Doom, the Horsemen, and then they had so much built up, but they didn't have anything after Flair. Like, there was nobody after Flair. Even though you had Sid, Arn,
That's
Wyndham.
because Flair had the clout in the office to stay where he was.
So it's really what we're looking at then, if we're really trying to quantify it, it's not 92, it's 91.
Yeah, it's
So Flair loses to Sting.
Dusty says, "Hey, you're out. Time to take a back seat.
Yep.
We're gonna move on with Sting and the
Oh,
Gunner
yeah.
guys."
Then easily I can see why you wouldn't fire anybody, because you had so many people at that time.
Right.
You'd have found a role, even if eventually some people just start to quit. You don't necessarily have to fire them, because your payroll at that point, I mean, it's dirt cheap, because the market at that time is cheap for wrestling.
And everybody's happy.
Yeah.
They don't start getting upset
Until
until
that happens with Flair.
Bischoff
Right.
really starts to put his hand in the cookie jar.
And honestly, if Flair had stayed up north, I mean, he had a couple things happen. He has the ear injury, where he's having trouble with balance, and he's just really worse off. And then he's got Arn in his ear down south. You got to come back. Things are turning around. We need you back. If that never happens, if Flair stays up north and just gets healthy, I mean, he could have continued his feud with Savage, with Hennig, with Brett, later with Michaels. And, I mean, imagine Prime, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, 30 minutes, 45 minutes.
And he would have eventually gotten
Yeah.
Hogan, which would have
Yes.
then Hogan or Flair would have ended Hulkamania.
I think you're right on that. I think in WWF, especially with Vince at that time, oh yeah, Flair's the only guy that would have did
Because
it.
that's
Right,
right around steroid time, too.
Yes, when Hogan really turned his
Right.
back.
Well, not only that, but see, with Hogan's control,
Mm-hmm.
he stops things. He
Right.
literally log piles WWF. Whereas I think with Flair at that time, Flair says, "Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
You know, you give me the runs when I want them, whatever.
toe the company line. Yeah.
Right, but however, I'll wrestle whoever you want. You want me to wrestle the Broom, I'll wrestle the Broom, and I'll go 60 minutes, and it'll be the best match you've ever seen.
And the twist on that is with Flair, the go-between, the buffer between Vince and Hogan, Ultimate Warrior doesn't leave. He sticks around. He finishes his run against Flair. Maybe he has an extended feud against Savage. And the Hall of Fame career that we see now is actually much more Hall of Fame worthy based off of what he does. So essentially WWF has an opportunity at that early point to recover and to see two very good quality wrestling products on the air. Because
Separate products.
And Vince goes to cartoon shortly after Flair leaves and Hogan gets ready to leave. We start seeing the Garbage Man. We see Max Moon. We see the cartoon gimmicks that weren't working anymore. And WCW, by that point, was already going away from those gimmicks, just more to wrestling.
Yeah, well, see, WCW never had those gimmicks.
I mean,
They were always wrestling first.
I mean, you had El Gigante, you had the Shockmaster.
But I don't consider them cartoon gimmicks.
But you also don't have the contracts.
Right.
I mean, when Hogan comes south, you have Thunder in Paradise, you have all these contracts.
Right.
You know, and what happens is when Hogan comes in and gets his contract, he opens the doors for his friends to come in, the Nasty Boys, to get this contract. Yeah. Brutus Beefcake, Randy Savage, you know, they get these contracts. Well, if you're going to bring them in and get a contract, you've got to pay Sting. You've got to pay Flair. Yeah. Well, it's people like the ones we talk about, Malenko and Jericho and Benoit and all these ones that aren't getting the contract. So where are they going to go? They're going to go up north.
In that environment, does the Undertaker still flourish?
Yes.
Oh, somebody busted.
The Undertaker is the Undertaker.
Yeah, no matter
regardless of who's there.
Yeah, but again,
imagine the Undertaker. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Imagine the Undertaker doing the mind games to Flair.
Oh,
yeah, and Flair and the Undertaker being able to wrestle a match.
Right. Not the
Tuesday in Texas.
Yeah.
But you know, I want you to think about this. Dusty Rhodes having the ability to take Chris Jericho when Jericho went from, you know, kind of like a little nothing to then a bigger nothing to then he's going to be something,
right?
To, you know, when he finally decides to walk off, he's huge. You know what I'm saying? And having Dusty being able to say, hey, no. Listen, we got plans for you, you know, because you don't have the Hogans, the Nashes, all this other crap keeping all these guys down. And imagine his career. His career may very well mirror what you see today.
Only just WCW.
Only in WCW. Because I think Dusty says, okay, let's do it. You come to me with an idea, and Dusty is smart enough to say, I can make money. And if I can make money, it's a good idea.
Well, what also people are forgetting is NXT. As much as they've given credit to Triple H with NXT, who did he have there?
Oh, Dusty.
In the infant stages.
Yeah.
Who built NXT when Triple H was still, you know, competing? He had Dusty.
Yeah.
Well, TNA had Dusty as well.
But the problem with TNA had at the end was...
but I'm just talking about when Dusty was there. They were quite successful with Dusty.
Right, and then they pulled the same shit.
Right.
They brought Hogan in.
Right.
And I'm not saying Hogan is the
The
nail in
death
the
knell.
coffin, but Hogan
Well, I mean,
brings.
that's
It kind of
two
was.
companies.
Yeah.
What did he do? He brings all his friends in,
Mm-hmm.
and then they brought Hogan in the same time they brought Flair in.
Yeah.
So you brought. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, I mean, Hogan at that point was so toxic. It was bad business all around. Bischoff, I don't know if there was really anything he did wrong in that situation. It was a money situation for him.
Well,
Later ended up he was owed money.
I mean, I think again it might have been smart to bring Bischoff in. The problem again is Hogan and the cronies.
Yeah. Having a fresh group of talent to coach through, to walk through is probably better.
I mean, to me, Dusty was a visionary,
Mm-hmm.
and in some regards, Bischoff, when he was clicking on all cylinders,
Yeah.
and not blinded by his own ego, was a visionary as well. I don't know. I'm not saying I put him up there with Dusty,
Right.
but look at what Bischoff did.
Well, he had the sense enough to know that what they were presenting and how they were presenting it was wrong. So he was the one that got rid of the blacktop bully. He was the one that got rid of, some of the more cartoonish ideas and got rid of the aspect of we're appealing to kids or adults, or he just said, no, we're going to go and be different. We're going to do the NWO. We're going to use real names and all of that. And he went at it from that perspective. I always thought that Bischoff's challenge towards the end was he had so many people in his ear that he just gave up.
The problem with Bischoff at the end was Bischoff didn't have control.
Right.
And nobody knew who was running the company. I mean, if the story is true that I heard was Ted Turner didn't even know WCW was sold
until he read it
until months later.
Yeah.
And he has said that if he knew that it was there, he would have saved it.
Mm-hmm.
But Turner Broadcasting, Turner Sports got too big.
Yeah. The whole Time Warner deal ruined business for a lot of people.
Well, it ruined a lot of things, but the whole problem was Bischoff.
Yeah.
And not Bischoff, but
it was that regime. I mean, he was so far gone by that point. When he came back to try to buy the company, I mean, he knew he was going to be taking on toxic waste with some of those people. He still would have had Hogan. He still would have had, all of these people that were bogging him down. But I think at that point, he would have been the guy to say, no, you're fired.
Well, at that point, they had ran the NWO gimmick until,
he was pushing to do something new. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you had the NWO, you had the LWO, you had the Wolfpack, you had,
LWO, La Raza.
It had gone from, who's going to NWO now to, well, who's not in the NWO?
Yeah, but the thing about the NWO, and even if they'd done it, I think with Dusty says, look, it's these three people, and that's it.
Right.
You
got to cap it.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe the fourth, if, let's say Hall, Nash, and X-Pac.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even those three.
Yeah.
You could have still pulled the same gimmick, the invasion angle, with just them three, and it would have still been, to me, as big as what it was. Because then you still would have had more. You would have had a better level of competition than 20-on-1. If you need WCW, take Sting, and it blows up bigger than what it was.
Would we have needed or seen Bill Goldberg? Because Hogan discovers Goldberg in a gym. if Hogan doesn't find Goldberg, if Hogan's not in WCW, we don't see Bill Goldberg.
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't think you need him.
Well,
I don't think you would either, but
I don't think you. I think if you see him, he's not 100 and whatever,
right,
or 1,000 and whatever, depending on who's counting. He's not undefeated.
There's the Shivani count.
Right. Yeah. He's not undefeated.
Yeah.
He is. He may still go to be a world champ. However, he loses along the way. So Jericho would beat him. Steven Regal beats him. Other people beat him. They don't need this fake cattle prod and 30 security guards and one extra person to finally dethrone him. He loses, but he still looks like a monster.
Yeah. We're coming up. We're definitely in overtime here. We're definitely running over our normal allotted time.
He said overtime.
We can keep going. We've definitely got.
No, I gotta go.
Okay, we gotta get Brian. He's gonna turn into a pumpkin, so we don't want to do that. So, okay, still
got on the basement. I gotta get out.
Fair point. September 23rd, UCW Ultimate Championship Wrestling Defiance. First television taping going on from the Michael & Sons Sportsplex in Sterling, Virginia. Tickets are on sale at eventbrite.com. Keyword UCW Defiance. Don't forget to check that out and buy tickets now while they're available. Corner to Corner will be in the house. And who knows what you'll see when you get there and what we'll be doing. Folks, catch up with us.
UCW Forever on Twitter.
On the Twitter. You can catch up with the show on Twitter at C2C Radio Show. Corner to Corner Show on Facebook. Corner, the number 2, Corner on Instagram. You can find Brian on Twitter at STRCP21. Brian Taylor on the Facebook.
Oh, but you got to give his screen name.
Professor Dickweed. C2C. Rob, where do they find you?
And the line for sodas. No. At Rob Hefner on Facebook. Rob Hefner C2C on the Twitter. RDHUWP on the Instagram. And wherever there's free food.
I think that speaks volumes. And I can be found at Stan from Krypton on Twitter.
When are you going to change it?
You know, when I can come up with something different.
Brian's changed his. I've changed mine twice.
So you just want me to be Stan C2C? Is that what you guys are happy with?
Well, I could tweet more if I didn't have your 65 character handle going against my.
Well, I mean, if you stopped mistyping it, you probably wouldn't have so many. Awkward silence and stare.
It auto fills in. That's why I'm like, I don't type it out.
All right, well,
one more casualty.
One more casualty.
Sable.
Ooh.
Because Miro would stay down in WCW.
Right, we never see Sable.
Never see Sable.
So maybe the WWE Women's Division never really gets off the ground after Orlando Blaze.
Bam. Do what?
The Sable Bomb.
I was never impressed with Sable, sorry.
Puppies.
There were plenty enough people. I think she
pasties?
broke the record for Playboy.
Do you remember?
Well, I mean, that way, but in the ring, no.
I mean, there's a lot of... Okay. Folks, we will see you next Sunday night.
But we would have had Snoochie Boochies.
What?
No, you would have never had Nitro Girls. No Nitro Girls, no
You don't
Snoochie
think
Boochies.
Dusty Rhodes would have did the Nitro Girls?
No, because we just went over the fact that I don't ever recall a women's division in WCW or NWA.
Oh, they didn't say they'd wrestle. It was just, dancing.
No.
Snoochie Boochies as a manager?
No.
Yeah,
Because it had never been a contest. It wouldn't have happened.
Man.
She'd have stayed a cheerleader in Baltimore.
Ugh. Sorry, Stacy. I'm sorry.
Sorry, fellas. That's the way it goes.
All right, well, catch up with us next week, Spreaker.com/user/corner2corner for all your on-demand needs, BeyondRingside.com, and ProWrestlingRadio.net. We'll see you next Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Right on time to talk about.
Scared of the 1%.
And we'll talk about round 2 of the Mae Young Classic. We'll see you next week. Thanks again for listening.
Rolling in your face, you don't think I'm scarred. She might as well call it army, but you're not